Today, we're going inside a gold processing factory and following that entire journey from raw ore to pure gold bar, step by step. Let's get into it. It starts in a mine, and the first thing that surprises most people is what gold ore actually looks like. There's no glittering yellow rock sitting there waiting to be picked up. Gold ore looks like plain gray or brown rock, completely unremarkable, indistinguishable from the gravel on a construction site. The gold inside it is microscopic, scattered in tiny particles throughout the rock in concentrations so small that extracting a single ounce requires processing several tons of material. In some mines, you're looking at just a few grams of gold per ton of rock. That's how rare it actually is. Massive drilling machines bore deep into the earth, explosives break the rock apart, and heavy machinery loads thousands of tons of this ordinary-looking material onto trucks that haul it to the surface. From there, it goes straight to the processing facility. The first stage at the factory is crushing, and the scale of it is hard to picture until you see it. Those massive chunks of rock, some the size of a car, get fed into primary crushers that break them down into smaller pieces. From there, they move into secondary crushers, then tertiary crushers, each stage reducing the particle size further. By the end of the crushing circuit, what was once a boulder is now a coarse gravel, but that's still not small enough. The material then enters grinding mills, enormous rotating cylinders, sometimes over 10 meters in diameter, filled with heavy steel balls. As the mill rotates, those steel balls tumble and grind the rock continuously until it becomes a fine powder, almost like dark gray flour. This fine powder is called slurry when water is added to it, and it's in this form that the gold extraction process really begins. The goal of all this crushing and grinding is simple. Break the rock down small enough that the gold particles trapped inside are fully exposed and accessible for the chemical processes that follow. Once the ore is ground down to a fine slurry, it enters the leaching circuit, and this is where chemistry takes over from brute force. The slurry is pumped into a series of large tanks, where a dilute cyanide solution is added and mixed thoroughly. Cyanide has an extremely strong chemical affinity for gold. It bonds with gold particles at a molecular level, dissolving them out of the surrounding rock material and pulling them into the liquid solution. This process, called cyanide leaching, was developed in the 1880s and is still the most widely used gold extraction method in the world today because of how effectively it works, even on very low-grade ore. The slurry sits in these tanks, being continuously agitated for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to ensure maximum gold recovery. By the end of this stage, the gold has essentially been pulled out of the rock and is now dissolved in the liquid. Invisible, but there. The next challenge is separating that gold-bearing liquid from the solid rock waste. This happens through a process called carbon in pulp, or CIP. Activated carbon, which looks like small black pellets, is added to the slurry. Gold has a strong natural attraction to activated carbon, so the dissolved gold latches onto the carbon particles almost immediately. The carbon, now loaded with gold, is then screened out of the slurry using fine mesh screens that allow the liquid and rock particles to pass through while retaining the larger carbon pellets. What you're left with is carbon that's carrying gold and a waste slurry called tailings that gets pumped to a containment facility. The tailings are managed carefully because of the cyanide content, and modern facilities have strict environmental protocols around this. The gold-loaded carbon, meanwhile, moves to the next stage of processing. To get the gold off the carbon, the facility uses a process called elution, or stripping. The carbon is placed into a pressurized vessel and washed with a hot caustic soda and cyanide solution at temperatures around 110 to 130 degrees Celsius. This hot solution strips the gold back off the carbon and into a new liquid solution called the pregnant eluate. The carbon, now stripped of its gold, gets regenerated in a kiln and recycled back into the leaching circuit to be used again. Nothing in this process gets wasted if it can be helped. The pregnant eluate, that gold-bearing liquid, then moves to electrowinning cells, which is where things start to feel more familiar. In these cells, an electrical current is passed through the solution. Gold and other metals are attracted to steel wool cathodes inside the cell and deposit onto them as a solid. After the electrowinning process runs its course, the steel wool is removed and smelted, burned at high temperature, which destroys the wool and leaves behind a crude gold product called sludge or doré. This doré is typically a mix of gold, silver, and small amounts of other metals, and it looks nothing like the finished product yet. It's a rough, dull, uneven material, but the gold is there, concentrated, and ready for the final stage. That final stage is refining, and this is where the transformation becomes dramatic. The doré is sent to a refinery, either on-site or at a specialist facility, where it goes through a process designed to push the purity of gold as close to 100% as possible. The most common method used in modern refineries is called the Miller chlorination process, followed by electrolytic refining. In the Miller process, chlorine gas is bubbled through the molten doré. Chlorine reacts with silver and base metals, converting them into chlorides that float to the surface as slag and are skimmed off. This brings the gold purity up to around 99.5%, already extremely high, but not quite enough for investment-grade gold bars. For that final push to 99.99% purity, what the industry calls 4 nines fine, the gold goes through electrolytic refining. The impure gold is cast into anodes and suspended in a gold chloride solution. When an electrical current is passed through, pure gold dissolves off the anode and deposits onto thin gold starter sheets on the other side of the cell with extraordinary precision. That refined gold is then melted down in a furnace and carefully poured into molds. The pouring is done slowly and deliberately. Temperature matters, pour speed matters, and the angle matters. Any air bubbles or inconsistencies in the pour can affect the structural integrity and appearance of the final bar. Once poured, the bars are allowed to cool and solidify. They come out of the molds still rough on the surface, so they go through a finishing process, surface cleaning, edge smoothing, and a final polish that brings out that deep, unmistakable golden shine. Each bar is then weighed to the gram, assayed to confirm its purity, and stamped with the refinery's hallmark, the bar's serial number, its weight, and its purity rating. That stamp is the bar's identity, its proof of origin and quality that makes it tradable on international markets. The finished bars are then moved to secure storage and eventually transferred to vaults, banks, central reserves, or directly to buyers. A standard gold bar, the kind you see in movies, weighs 400 troy ounces, which is about 12.4 kilograms, and at current gold prices is worth somewhere in the range of $750,000 to over $1 million, depending on the market. Smaller bars of 1 kilogram, 100 grams, or even 1 gram are also produced for retail investors in jewelry manufacturers. Every single one of them went through the same process: crushed from rock, leached with cyanide, captured on carbon, stripped, electrowon, refined, melted, poured, and stamped. If this video gave you a new appreciation for what goes into making something most people take for granted, hit the like button and share it with someone who'd find this fascinating. Subscribe for more deep dives into the factories and processes behind the things we use every day. We'll see you in the next one.